Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information. Um, I, I've been working on a reforestation project recently on behalf of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. And this is a shot actually of the reforestation project. And you can see these little wooden posts in the foreground. That's where the young trees have been planted. And in the background, you can see a 6-foot tall man. The wall of vegetation behind that man is European blackberry, also known as evergreen blackberry. And I'm just really gobsmacked by this. I had seen the species a few times in the last couple of years. It's non-native. It's clearly very aggressive. But each time I had seen it, it was just, kind of growing on a corner out of a woodland edge. It wasn't that big of a deal. This is the first time I've ever seen it where it's really free to spread around in an open habitat. And it is growing 12 to 15 feet tall. It forms completely impenetrable thickets. It cannot be managed by pulling or mowing discourages it. We mow it there 3 to 4 times a year, and that keeps it at 4 to 5 feet tall in areas where it's getting mowed. Mowing it like a lawn every few weeks keeps it as short as the lawn. It does not kill it. So it's just, I had no idea until this experience what a badass invasive plant this was. So I was very anxious to warn all of you. It's actually pretty easy to identify. Well, certainly if you see it in its 15-foot tall phase, our native blackberries don't get that big. But it tends to have pink, light pink, sometimes almost white flowers, and the backs of the leaves are bright white. I will paste in the chat as soon as I get out of the PowerPoint presentation an excellent series of identifying photographs that have been posted to iNaturalist. So for those of you that want to dig into blackberry taxonomy, I think you'll find that very interesting. But for more practical purposes, if you see pink flowers, it's European blackberry. If you see the white on the back of the leaf, it's European blackberry. This is another shot of the wall of the vegetation in the distance. And here you can see the planted trees, which are, I think, 2 years old at this point. And you can very clearly see what would happen if we were not mowing all around each one of those little trees 3 to 4 times a year. So I just wanted to warn you about that, and also remind you when you see an early phase invader, you can grab your smartphone. We use the iNaturalist map and record your observations. It is super helpful if you do that. And if we have a few minutes, I'm happy to take questions.
Sarah, there's a question from Mark Imlay about whether cut stump would work, and I'm assuming that means cutting it and then painting it with an herbicide.
Yeah, so I understand that under the ground there is a woody knot that is a sort of like a stump, but it's subterranean. If you can get into that thicket and get at that knot, I have read that that can be effective, but getting to it would be the challenge. And I think for us, what we will be doing is mowing the perimeter and then spraying the perimeter. So then you have an area that's about 6 feet deep or 10 feet deep that you can spray. And then once that succumbs, you can mow the next, and you just keep working your way inward like that. I do have a really good reference on management. It's kind of old, but I can post the link to that in the chat too.
You might be able to try a forestry mulcher. Those,
Yes.
yeah, those chew up the roots as well, in
Yes,
addition to spraying.
if a Fecon, a forestry mulcher, we don't have one of those. And that, I think that's an excellent approach to go in there with the forestry mulcher, just grind it down to the ground, and then you'll still get resprouts.
Right.
But that's something that you can go out in a gator, get a little elevation and a large tank and spray down. I guess one of the things, early detection prevention, if you can swing it, because this is going to add thousands of dollars of cost to this reforestation effort. There's no getting around it. It came in during COVID, while we still weren't even like going outside with each other. Do you remember when it was like you're going down the sidewalk and you're like, is it okay? I'm probably like, I breathed some of what that person probably breathed. Are we all gonna die now? And yeah, so during that period of COVID, this stuff just happened to be poised to take over this meadow.
Steve Cottrell, if I'm pronouncing his name properly, has put in the chat that foliar spraying with the glyphosate and triclopyr 3 mixture will wipe it out.
Excellent. I'm using a triclopyr with an adjuvant right now, LI 700, and it looks, from what I'm seeing so far this year, it looks like it's just really doing the job, but I have to monitor carefully for temperature, which is an issue this summer. You're not supposed to spray above a certain temperature because it will volatilize. And obviously we have to aim very, very carefully because we're working in and around the little trees that are supposed to be the future forest. Yeah. That being said, the good news is it's highly discouraged by canopy closure. So if we can get those little trees up to the point where they're meeting each other and really providing a high quality shade on the ground, there will still be sprouts coming up under that. But yeah, I think that's the way eventually we will win the battle.
Sara, how widespread is this species based on what you were looking at? I could look it up too, I mean, for what's known,
Yeah.
but what do you know about it?
I think it's questionable at this point whether we should still consider it early detection.
Mm.
But certainly if it's your yard or your farm or your reforestation project and you don't have it yet, and this gives you the opportunity to kill it the moment you see it, that will really be to your advantage.
Okay, thanks. What are the fruits like?
It looks very much like the native blackberry fruits. They go through the progression from green to red to black. But of course, I thought your question was about flavor. And I didn't feel any
No.
conflict at all in picking some of the blackberries before I started spraying.
Mhm. I mean, that is also a consideration. It might help get volunteers out.
I was just trying to keep those seeds from being dispersed.
Right, exactly. Okay, thanks.
Louisa says, is glyphosate still available? I was looking at Roundup products today, and all had triclopyr and or other herbicides, but no glyphosate.
Yeah, I noticed that. I also noticed that when I was in a Home Depot, like a week ago, that the Roundup container said triclopyr on it. So, I guess things are shifting. I know that as a professional, I can still access glyphosate. I don't know how long that's gonna be true.
I
Um,
believe that different localities may have banned it, but that it is available in some of the counties in Maryland, and one can always buy it online.
Mark, did you have a question?
I learned that Roundup Aquatic is much safer than Roundup. I have to order it online, but I get it from Do My Own and forestry suppliers. And so that's what I recommend.
yes,
I also want to remind everybody, you just got a few days left to get beefsteak plant out. I did at my 200-acre park. I had about 10 huge bags, but I did get it all.
And Todd says Roundup voluntarily removed it from their products, but it is not banned.
interesting.
And there's certainly, so Roundup is a trade name.
Yes,
Glyphosate is the chemical. So just because one company has removed glyphosate from their products, which again, I hadn't heard before this, doesn't mean that other companies aren't going to be selling the chemical itself.
right. And I wanted to mention too, because Faith Campbell's talk is going to be about threats to the forest, that this is an invasive plant that is having a serious impact on ecological succession. The process through which a forest is disturbed, there is meadow vegetation, and then seedlings from the forest come in, forest trees, seedlings come in, and eventually the meadow fades away as the forest canopy establishes. That process is not going to function. So that's one of the most basic ecological processes in our region, and it will not function with evergreen blackberry here. And evergreen blackberry is the blackberry that I am told by blackberry growers is the blackberry that is being grown for food. Which as a person who eats food, I'm in favor of that aspect of it, but I don't know how to keep it out of our meadows or from disrupting ecological processes.
I'm going to stop here for a moment and just really thank Sara for bringing this to our attention and sharing her knowledge. We appreciate it greatly. I think
Thank
this
you.
discussion, and keep your eye out for this menace, which I'm worried about because I know my neighbors are growing blackberries and I'm having a feeling that that might be the wrong species. So we'll see.